Hello, I'm Cecilia Louie of Paper Zen. This video is going to be featuring the letter K, and if you plan on outlining the letter, maybe you can skip towards the end and I'll be showing that. But as per usual, I like to do something a little different each time. So this is a free template that you can download, and what it's showing is a 6-inch square with a 4-inch square in the middle and the letter K featured exactly in the middle, so same distance all around the sides. And of course the baseline and the middle line so that you can replace the letter with any letter that you print out from my book Quilling Letters. So what I've done is taken this exact diagram that you see here and cut it out of scrap cardstock here. And then what I've done is taken a strip of 1/8 inch cardstock, cut from the same sheet, and basically glued it to the bottom of my template. So I'm planning on quilling with a 1/4 inch width of paper, so this is about half that. This is exactly half that width, and what I want it to do is when I go to quill with the 1/4 inch paper, it's going to butt up against this edge and not kind of go over this template. After gluing the strip to the bottom of my template and letting it dry, I used Zig 2-way glue, and if you apply your two surfaces while they're wet, the bond is going to be permanent, but if you let it dry completely, you'll see that the glue becomes temporary, which is exactly what we need here. We want our template to be removable when we're done. I'm going to use my table surface as one platform to keep things straight. So I'm going to put these two items down on my table surface using my hands to guide on the left and the right of it. I'm going to then know that my template is applied straight. Now this is the negative space, and I'm going to be using that to help guide where this letter K goes in here, because you could eyeball it, but if you're a little off, then if you're like me, it could bug you. So what I've done is notch these corners up, or scored them up, and just kind of put it in place here. That's just going to be a visual guideline for myself. And then I'm going to put the letter K where that belongs, and you want to be positioning your eyes right above your card as you set this down, because if you look at it from any angle, it could be a little off. So now you've got your little tabs to help you remove that out of the way, and there we have negative space ready to quill inside, and it's all going to be fenced in. You don't have to worry about any of the elements moving, and when it's all dry you can just easily detach this away. Okay, so I'm back after doing some quilling, and let's talk about some of the shapes I've used here. So this is an 11-inch strip, and I've just kind of eyeballed into thirds here and prepped a whole bunch of strips ahead of time. So this is an S scroll, and let's just go through some basics on that, and some of you who are more experienced can skip this stage, but I just find I'm hearing from a lot of beginning quillers who are enjoying these series, so I just want to do this for their benefit. So what I did was I pre-softened my strip on both sides and press the tool into my finger to create this S shape. Now if you look really carefully, this is actually about the same size. What I prefer to do is have one side larger than the other. So here I'm just going to unravel a little bit. Here on this side I'm just going to unravel a bit more, and then voila, it's now asymmetric. So I just find that that kind of sizing makes your eye look at this shape more dynamically. So let's go through that more slowly. So I'm going to pre-soften the strip, and I do both sides because you see how that part here is straight now. So I want to make the whole strip treat it the same. it's just something that my fingers do. You don't have to do this. It's just something that my fingers like to feel in this paper. I like to feel that my fibers are pre-softened. So I'm going to take my tool and press it into my finger, and I'm not turning this tool at all. All I'm doing is providing the kind of friction that you would feel if you are rubbing dry glue off your fingers. So, and raveling it. And as it gets down to this area, I just put my other finger on it to hold it in place so it doesn't unravel, move it back to the front of my finger here, and ravel some more if you need. So then I'm going to turn it around and create the other side to create my C scroll. And again, my fingers, I guess, they just made it automatically even, but it's easy to make that also asymmetric by raveling one side more than the other to get a little more movement for my eyes. So that's the S scroll, that's the C scroll. Now this is what people typically would call the V scroll, the letter V. So I'll show you something typical, and then I will show you what I atypically do. And so people generally fold it in half, and I'm just gonna pre-soften because that's just what I do. And then they start coiling on both ends into about the center. And that is how you get the letter V in your scroll. So you're wondering, how do you get from there to there? Let me show you. So for one thing, you can see right away, one side is larger than the other. So once you see that, it's automatically called asymmetric, right? That makes sense. So I'm just going to grip with my fingertips to eyeball into thirds. Do you see this strip? So we're talking about 1 inch and about 2 inches. If it's a little less, little more, it really doesn't matter to me, because it's not like, I guess no one's going to measure this. So as long as it fits in your piece, it's fine. You don't have to be so exact. So, and I actually prefer that things are a little different from one another, because it's not something mechanically made. So here is something similar to the letter V, but as you can see, one side has more coils than the other. So then this is something that I don't see typically shown in a lot of literature or examples, but what I prefer to do is actually add a little bit of glue right in the middle, and then I squeeze that closed. Now you just want a little bit because you don't want to have anything gushing out of the sides too much, right? So you're wondering, okay, well, that's straight, so let's add a little curve to that. So I'm going to put my crochet hook on the side that has the smaller curve and just kind of rub it back and forth. Next thing you know, voila, it's got some movement now, right? Doesn't that just seem more dynamic than the typical V scroll? So that's how that shape is created. So when you come down to this last shape here, it's what they call a same-sided scroll, because the scrolls are going towards the same direction. So again, I'm just going to eyeball into thirds. And when I fold my strip, I don't just haphazardly fold anywhere. With my other hand, I am actually feeling for these two sides to come together. And then I press, because you don't want to press and have one side offset from one another. If you do, your gluing is going to be a lot more challenging, believe me. So just as we do with all the other scrolls, we're just going to press it into the finger and rub. So as I get down to this knuckle, I'm running out of room. And if you find that your coils are kind of tornadoing right here, I'm just using my fingernail to press it and make sure that the coils all line up. So then with this finger, I'm going to hold it in place, move it back up to the tip, and continue rolling. So again, this is more of the typical same-sided scroll I see in literature everywhere, and I am just going to add a touch of glue in the middle. Why do I do this? Why? I don't know. I just find that this open area here, it kind of bugs me. I don't know. Bugs me is maybe too strong a word, but I just find visually I enjoy the way it's almost like it's stemming out of one movement. So I don't always do this. I guess it just depends. So now I'm taking the crochet hook and just giving it a little curve right from the back. And then the same-sided scroll now has, again, more movement than typically I see in other literature. And that's how you create that guy. So how do you go about putting it in here? So I find generally for corners, smaller areas like this are key because they kind of define the negative space of the letter K. So I actually started from this corner and kind of worked my way out, and like a puzzle piece, I will, you know, try it here, try it here. How does that look, you know, all over the place? And when I find something that I enjoy, then okay, then I'm going to start on the next piece and determine, is it better if I use the smaller piece here? What I want to end up doing is defining the edges of the letter K so that when I go to remove the letter K out, I'm going to subtly see the distinctive outline of the letter without actually having to outline it itself. Okay, all my scroll work is done and it's put inside my template. I've started gluing some of the pieces, and just like you would deal with a puzzle, I would tend to do the corner pieces first because it kind of defines a very important part of the design. Here's an example where I decided, okay, I'm going to do a V-scroll and I'm not going to glue the inside part, and I'm going to just define that corner of the letter K. And basically, because it's such a defining piece, I'm going to be tackling those kind of key areas first so that everything else can move around it, but I just need this to be exactly where I want it to be. So, and here's another example where, do you see this tail right here is not meeting the edge of the card? Is that a big deal? No, certainly not. But, you know, knowing how I am, when I go to glue, what I'm going to do is position it so that that tail does meet the edge of the card. Do you see the difference? So what it does is when I remove this template, it's going to have a more defined edge. It's going to have more defined corners that are picked out because I specifically chose to have a piece exactly that shape in that corner. And so everything else can flow around it and move and accommodate with one another, but certain pieces like that where you can help it along and define your edge visually, it's going to help your piece overall when you magically take this away and it looks so amazing, right? So just like I do with all my projects so far, I'm going to use Aline's original tacky glue, and I'm going to put a bead down and just smear it quite flat. Now, because some of these neighbors are not glued down, I just kind of hold them in place. I started gluing a little bit down here, so I just kind of move it like I see, oh, I see, you are glued. So I can just put my fingers here and pick that guy up and not move too much of everything else. And just make sure to dab your innermost coils into the glue. Make sure that you coat everything. And you might need to, you know, massage things as they go back in. And just place that tail where you want it to go. And then work your way through the rest of the piece. Good luck with yours. I can't wait to see how it turns out. Okay, this part of the video is for those who would like to outline the letter K for other types of projects that you have in mind. So I already have my strips already measured out and folded. So let's start with this part of the strip. Now, the human eye is going to be able to know if this is a little bit off. So to help us guide the horizontal part of the letter K, I'm going to be using some removable tape to tape down my guide. And when I tape it down, I'm going to tape on the outside of the line, the score line, not on top of the score line, so that basically this edge here is on the outside of this black line, because you need to allow for the thickness of Mi-Tinte paper. And if you tape this guide right on top of that score line, you're just going to shove a little bit down, and you're going to run out of room that way. So this is that part of the letter. Let's get started with putting down a bead of glue, and then I'm going to smear that flat. And I'm only going to dip just the horizontal parts of the letter K. Now, as you can see with my left hand, I'm keeping that part of the strip up in the air so that I'm not going to mar my surface. Now, I have another piece of plastic. It's a transportation card I got in Singapore. And as you can see, the plastic is much, much thinner. And hopefully you can find something that thin as well. So I'm going to be applying some glue on here this time. Well, I guess you could have put it on here in the first place, but... And I'm going to just smear that thinly as well. Now, I'm going to move this template out of my way because it's served its purpose now. And I'm going to move these strips out of the way. And then I'm going to have access. Now with my tweezer, I'm going to pinch on this corner and lift it up. And dip. And lift up. And dip just to get that corner. Now with my pair of tweezers, I'm just going to gently pull towards the bottom so that I get straight lines. Even though Mi-Tinte is fairly thick, it can have a hint of waver to it. So now you can do the rest of the outline. And so, following the same method, I'm going to just gently tug towards my left here. And if you want, you can use your plastic guide to just help straighten that edge before you really push down on it. Now I can see, now that I have rotated my letter in different lights, I can see that I probably put my guide a little too high. My lighting in here, I've been trying to adjust it so I can see better, but normally I would have brighter situation and not so many shadows, so that I can see my work. Hopefully you're going to have an easier time than I am showing you, and be able to align your letter to your outline a little bit more accurately than I've done. So now for this join, it can be a little tricky. So I have some post-it flags, and I'm just going to remove the bottommost piece and just put it right to the edge of that corner. And what that's going to do is basically prevent this strip from going too far, or, you know, anywhere it shouldn't really, and hopefully align that join for you. Okay, so now that I've got that part done, I'm going to just push this guy up and bring back my template. And this time, let those two bottommost pieces dictate where you put your tape down. And in this case, I'm going to apply glue to the whole strip, because basically I don't want to get into that inner area after the fact. I think that's probably going to be a little harder for me, I think. So with my left hand, I'm going to keep that part up in the air as I use my right hand to guide strip onto my surface. Now, because this part can flex a little bit and this corner here is not flexible, I'm going to actually keep this part up in the air as much as I can and align this corner first. Now at this point, I can adjust this as I please. And then post-it notes are so helpful. You can remove the guide now and just finish your joins by smearing some glue off to the edge and joining your corners. So you're going to join this one, and you'll be finished your letter K. Want to be the first to know when I put out my latest video tutorial? Subscribe to my channel. If you enjoyed this video, I hope you give it 2 thumbs up or leave a comment below. I'd love to hear from you.